Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Rabbi Tzvi. Today's class will be answering the mind-boggling question because I know all of you have been bothered by it. Thousands of you have been coming over to me by the Shabbaton and asking this question. Just kidding, no one asked this question. But you should have been asking this question. The age-old question. The most insanely mind-bothering question of all time. All right, let me cut to the chase. The question is, we're coming up to the story of Passover, Pesach, story of the Exodus from Egypt. We've all heard about it, whether from a Steven Spielberg film or from Disney or from reading the Haggada with your family, which is great. But I don't know if any of you have noticed something really insane about the story of Passover. Think for a second of a name that pops up when you think of Passover story. Think of one name. Just go. You're probably thinking of Pharaoh, right? Did I guess correctly? I'm actually a hypnotist, not a rabbi. I'm really a hypnotist. Just kidding. I'm a jokester, not a rabbi. Just kidding. I'm really a rabbi. Maybe just a janitor or a rabbi. But Pharaoh. Okay, great. Now let's think of another name that comes to mind. Pharaoh. What else? Moses. Great. Moses. Okay, that's the second name that comes up. Let's think of another name. Moses. God. Okay, that's a good one. Oh, what do you say? Aaron, right? Moses' brother. Very good. You know your Jewish history. Great. Yes, you listen in Hebrew school. Excellent. So, one second. So, Pharaoh was the first name. Yes, that's definitely true because Pharaoh is all over the story, right? He refused to let us go. But the second name you mentioned, Moses. Wait 1 second. Have you noticed something very strange about the story of Passover? Yes, my friends. Throughout the entire story of Passover, in the Haggada, there is not a single mention of the name Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our shepherd, our leader, is not mentioned once in the story of Passover, in the Haggada. To be quite fair, to be accurate, there is one reference, and that is when the rabbis are sitting around the table and they mention a verse that has his name in it. But in the actual story of the Passover, of the whole, from the beginning of time when we met our ancestor, met Lavan, and all through those years of the tough journeying that we did down to Egypt and then out of Egypt, there's not a single mention of the name Moses. I mean, does that make any sense to you? This is like he's literally the protagonist of the story. It's like creating a movie and omitting the entire main actor. It's like taking the story of Passover and deleting Moses' name. Who would ever think? I mean, like, take this book for example. It's about birds. Okay, my kids love this book, Birds. How many times do you think birds is mentioned in here? Probably a lot, right? Yeah, for good reason, because it's about birds. My friends, what's going on here? Haggada. It's the story of Passover. Moses is the one that delivered God's word to Pharaoh time and time again. I mean, heck, Lavan's name. Lavan. Do you guys know who Lavan is? Okay, well, he was not such a great guy, and he tried tricking our forefather, Jacob, into working for him for an extra few years. Really not a cool guy. His name is mentioned there, all right? Take Rabbi Yossi from Galilee. He's a rabbi mentioned in the Mishnah, all right? And he lived around 2,000 years ago. Great man, but none of you, I guarantee, have mentioned his name more than 5 times in a sentence. But Moses, come on, guys. We love Moses. He is like the leader, the great man, and yet he's not mentioned once. Going into conniptions here. Don't worry, I don't know of coronavirus. Don't worry. I'm good. Stay safe. So, what's going on? Why is Moses' name not mentioned? That is what we're going to be talking about today for the next, oh gosh, I only have 30 seconds left. Okay, so basically, yeah, the end of story, happily ever after. I still have 20 seconds left. Okay, let's talk about the news. The weather. How's the weather? Just kidding, guys. We've got plenty of time here all afternoon. Let's dive right in. Why is Moses' name not mentioned in the Haggada? So, if any of you have any other ideas from what I'm going to mention today, please ship them in, send them over to CTeen _CTeen is the hashtag, is the Instagram handle, or you can hit me up on CTeen East Valley. That's our chapter handle. and let us know your ideas for why Moses is not mentioned. But here's the angle I'm going to be taking today, all right? So let's go back for a second to the story of Purim, okay? Purim, we all know that story too, right? There was a big meanie, Haman. There was a big goody, Mordechai. There was whatever the guy, Achashverosh. She liked a lot of Corona beer. Sorry, not Budweiser. Okay, never mind. He liked a lot of orange juice. And Esther, Queen Esther, right? Okay. And it's an amazing story, thrilling, gripping story from beginning to end. One of my favorites of all time. But there's, again, a name not mentioned once in the entire Megillah. Whose name is that? Very good. Wow, you did great in Hebrew school. I'm going to tell your teacher, and you're going to get a sticker. 2 stickers. Smiley face. Fine. Star and smiley face. Deal. Pound it. Boom. So, yes, God's name is not mentioned once in the story of Purim. What's going on here, guys? Haggada, Moses' name's not mentioned. Moses is the one that delivers all the goods, all right? Purim, God, he's the one pulling all those strings, making sure everything's turning out fine. We say saves the Jews from eternal destruction, from widespread annihilation, and yet not mentioned either. What is going on over here? Why are we missing the main actors? It's not like the Bible movie producers were, bad at casting their actors. They were great. These are epic stories. I love that word epic, by the way. Don't let my C-teens fool you. Epic is a great word. Hashtag epic. Let's get it trending. Hashtag epic. Even like a hashtag epic Moses or hashtag epic God. But guess what? Epic Moses wouldn't exist in that God because his name's not mentioned once. Or God. Why are they missing out the most important element? Moses in the Haggada. And God in the Purim story. What's going on here? Really, really weird. So, let's think about this for a second. Who was Moses? What do you know about Moses? Let's start from the beginning. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our leader, in fact does not have a Hebrew name. His name is Egyptian because it was given by an Egyptian. Moses was put in the Nile. He was found by Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh, King Pharaoh. She was gripped. She was amazed at this beautiful, charming little baby, perfect little features. And she did not have any kids of her own. In fact, she was not able to have kids, and she even had, they say, leprosy. She was not doing well, which was why she was going down to the river at that time to cure her of her leprosy, hopefully, because why else would you go to the Nile, like to fish for a crocodile? No, get rid of your leprosy, right? So we'll go for the Nile, right? Okay, well, I'm just kidding. So, so she went down to the Nile to get rid of her leprosy. She finds Moses, pulls him out of the river. Miracle happens. Her hand stretches really far. So like this, it almost looks like my hand is like longer than my actual body, but it's just the camera. But here wasn't the camera effect. It wasn't any CGI. There was real stuff happening. Her hand went out, outstretched, brought the basket, brought it back in her hand, returned back to normal. She's like, phew, I don't want to be with like a 10-foot hand for the rest of my life because that would totally ruin my Instagram chances of going viral. And she finds this baby, and miraculously her leprosy disappears. So she realizes this baby has some amazing powers. So she decides, hey, perfect, he'll be my very own. Now this is right after her father, Pharaoh, had decreed that all baby boys, Egyptian, non-Egyptian, Jewish, should be thrown into the Nile. And gotten rid of, God forbid, crazy. But that was a decree because he heard that the savior of the Jews was going to come from a boy. So therefore he said, okay, just kill them all. And she took him, against her father's knowledge, and she took him in and she raised him as his very own. And for all he knew, he was an Egyptian prince. And in fact, when he grew up, Moses was looking to be the next Pharaoh of Egypt. There was, history tells us, a little competition between him and his stepbrother, I guess, Amenhotep, and the Amenhotep was crippled. Moses was not. Moses was very charming. Amenhotep was not. So Moses had everything. He was kind. He was gracious. It's funny, actually, because he didn't really fit into the court intrigue. He wasn't really with it. He wasn't like, you do not say that in front of me. And it was like, hey, we like a cup of tea, crumpets, biscuits. Yeah, you British know what I'm talking about. He was very kind. He was a nice guy. It's so cool that we're having a seminar here, like a class, and like the Brits from CT are here, and the Aussies, and the South Africans, and Israelis, and people from like, New York and Alaska, CT in Alaska. Shout out to CT in Alaska. Is it CT in Alaska? It should be. And, California and Texas and Arizona. Yes. Shout out to Tom Mercer for winning the season leader of the year, just by the way. Yeah, just had to put it in there. And so back to Moses. So he grows up in this palace as an Egyptian prince, looking to be the next Pharaoh of Egypt. This is not the Moses you'd expect. When you think of Moses, you think of a righteous, humble, soft-spoken leader who stood up for what's right and put down what's wrong and led the Jews out of Egypt and took down Pharaoh with his staff, the miracle worker, the superpower Moses. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Moses. He was so cool, yes, but no, wait, 1 second. He grew up looking to be the Pharaoh of Egypt. So what happened? When did it all turn? When did he finally go against the Pharaoh that he was supposed to be, right? What's going on here? So as he grows up, he realizes he's not one of them. He doesn't belong in this place. And Moses takes a short walk over to the other side of town, where he hears some rumors of this slave mentality going on with a whole tribe, with a whole nation that's being enslaved. Sure enough, it's the Jews, and they're working their guts off to build pyramids that are just going to sink in the sand a day later. So then they just rebuild it. It was the worst type of slave labor because it was work that they couldn't even derive satisfaction from, because it literally imploded on them that day. The quicksand just swallowed it up, and then the next day they were just, okay, let's build another pyramid that's going to just be destroyed that day by the natural elements. It was terrible conditions. And he comes there and he watches, and his heart goes out to these people. What could they have done to deserve such a treatment? How could this be? And he looks around and he sees one group of people that are not working. They're sitting there with some scrolls, papyrus, and just mumbling some words. So he goes over to see what's going on, and he asks to speak to, the guy in charge. Can I speak to a manager? Like every time you go to call American Airlines, hey, can I speak to a manager? There's a manager. I just want a manager. That's what a manager. But it's like, I just want a manager. Who is in charge over here? And they point into this guy called Amram. And Amram takes one look at Moses and says, boy, you're my son. And Moses says, say what? And Amram says, yeah, dude, you're my son. Well, I don't know if it exactly happened like that. It might have been like, father, son. But anyways, they figure out that Amram is Moses' father. Moses is Amram's son. Crazy, like mind-blowing. Amram's Moses' father, and Moses is Amram's son. It's like when Apple took the iPhone, the earphone jack that's like since removed, because like who needs an earphone jack, and put it from the top of the phone to the bottom of the phone. Wow, it changed my life forever. But anyways, yes, Moses finds out that he is Amram's son. He is not an Egyptian. He's not an Egyptian prince. He's not going to be a pharaoh. He is a Jew. And he goes back to the palace going crazy over all this information. What does he do now? Does he stay with being a crown prince? Or does he stay being a Jew? Jewish people at that time were persecuted. They were the slaves. They were the dredge of society. Egyptians were riding the top, and of the top, he was at the top. He was going to be Pharaoh. He was going to be at the top of the food chain, the ultimate, the great. He was going to be embalmed. He would make it in life. So what could possibly give him the reason to go and become a Jew, or to keep his original tradition alive? Well, here's where Moses' identity comes in. And here's where we start exploring the reason why Moses may not be in the Haggada story. Moses realizes that he does not have a lying bone in his body. He's completely true to his core. He finds it out because there is a episode that happens where he goes down and he sees an Egyptian taskmaster hurting another Jewish man almost to the point of death. he knows the Jewish law. He was well versed. I don't know how he knew it, but he knew that if someone's coming to kill another person, you kill that guy first. And he uttered God's holy name, and the Egyptian taskmaster dropped dead. And he buried him in the sand, and that was the end of the evil taskmaster. And he goes back to the palace. He rectified the wrong. And he comes back the next day. He sees two Jews this time fighting and quarreling. And he's with Dasan and Avira. And he says, hey guys, what's up? Why are you guys fighting? Latest, like what? You dropped your iPhone in the sand or something? Like, what's going on? He said, hey, what are you going to do? You going to kill us? Like you killed the Egyptian taskmaster yesterday? That was so dope, man. But like, not cool. You doing it to us? You want to do it to us? Yeah. And they start like making fun of him. And then Moses realizes that these people were very ungracious because he had just saved their life from the taskmaster. But now the secret is out. And now Pharaoh is going to find out that he killed an Egyptian taskmaster. He's going to start to wonder, whose side is Moses on? So Moses realizes he has to escape from this terrible land of Egypt, which was depraved immorality at that time. And he escapes from Egypt. All because he had not a single lying bone in his body. He cannot stay still when an Egyptian taskmaster was hurting his fellow or hurting any person. He couldn't stay still. Another person might have said, shouldn't mix in. I'm a bystander, the bystander effect, It's not me. It's not happening to me. I mean, I didn't really notice it. I know the full story. Maybe he deserves it. Maybe he doesn't. Who might have mixed in? No, Moses was real. He was sincere. He was true. If he saw something and it didn't make sense to him, it had to make sense, and therefore he went along with it. And therefore, the cog started turning. Now Moses wasn't anymore the crowned prince. He was now a escapee. He was running away from this all. And he realizes, this true stuff reminds me of this funny joke that I remember hearing of this guy who, this doctor, who was sitting at home with his wife and finally had some time after all his patients, and he gets a call from his friend, and his friend says, hey, Joe, we're sitting down to play game night. Can you join us? We need 4 people, and we're only 3 right now. Can you come along? So, he hangs up. He says, okay, I'll be right over there. So he hangs up the phone. And his wife says, is it urgent? Thinking that, this is a doctor visit. He says, yes, it's very urgent. In fact, there's 3 doctors there already. Ha ha ha. You get it? If any of you are not laughing, now is the time to laugh. You get it? 3 doctors there. I feel like every joke these days is with doctors or viruses. Guys, don't worry. Hashem has got you back. So anyways, Moshe was the truest guy ever. And that's what made him who he was. Because he left Egypt, he went away, and he slowly became the man he would become. He met God at a burning bush. He comes back rejuvenated, alive, inspired, like coming back from the Shabbaton, and he walks back into Egypt, and there he realizes his destiny doesn't lie with the lies, with the falsehood of the palace intrigue in Egypt. It lies with his dad and with his brethren, the Jewish people. And that's the moment where he realizes, I have to be who I have to be. I have to be true to my faith. And Moses, at the age of 80 years old, turns it all around and becomes the leader that he will be. It will be famously known as Moses. And this is why perhaps we don't mention the name Moses in the Haggada. Because if you take the Haggada story and you look at Moses and you say, wow, he wasn't, maybe if he was born with it all, he was born religious, he was just born, silver spoon in his mouth, fine, that was him. I'm not born like that. But hey, what do I have to say when a guy like Moses was born, not religious, he was born on the other side of the spectrum, an Egyptian, right? And that's how he was raised. And then he turned it all around because he was a sincere, honest person. And he could not tolerate what was going on in the palace. And he threw it all away, all those riches, all the fame, all the glory of being a pharaoh. Egypt was at the crescendo. They were at the top of the world at that time. And he threw it all away just so that he could be sincere and true. wow, how can I match up to that? You look at the story of the Haggada and you say it's not relevant to me because I can never be like Moses. I can never be like Moses to turn it all around, take my life and take it from here and bring it over there. I can never do that. I don't have the courage. I don't have the stamina. Perhaps I'm not just built the way Moses is. So it's an excuse that we can tell ourselves, right? But when you take out Moses, right? Moses, then you realize it's not all about Moses. It's about you and me. It's not a story that happened 3,000 years ago that's only relevant then because there was a great guy, Moses, that saved the day. No, the Exodus happens every day. It can happen every day, starting with me. I can be the one to change it all around, right? And now you say, well, Moses did have the burning bush, right? He did have an incredible revelation of God. But that was at 80 years old, right? At 80 years old, he got a revelation. For 80 years, he lived a certain lifestyle. And then at 80 years old, yes, he got a great revelation of the burning bush, right? But, how many of you saw this super fast Lamborghini at age 16 and were inspired to drive Lamborghinis, right? You didn't change your life because you saw a Lamborghini. He was 80 years old, the guy, but yet he still turns it around, all because he was a sincere person. So maybe the Haggadah takes out the word Moses so that it doesn't provide us with that excuse. So that we realize that it's not just because there was a great Moses there that saved the day and swooped in and went, oh, hey, my name is Moses. Call me Moses. No. There was a story of Exodus that happened then and it happens today. And it does not provide us with that excuse. It deliberately takes out Moses so that we realize that that story of Exodus doesn't need a truly amazing, world-renowned leader like Moses to turn around and just change it. I can start. I can be the one to take that change and start it little by little. I can be that one. It's an amazing story I want to leave off with. Incredible story. Rabbi Moshe Kolarski, who is currently the vice chairman of Merkaz Liani Chunach, the executive branch of Chabad, very great guy, very great rabbi, was, as a young man, tasked by the Rebbe to visit Curacao, an island in the Caribbean. And he wasn't told why, he was just told that a community needs his help. So he goes to Curacao, this island there, balmy island, steps off, wondering what in the world he's doing in Curacao. This guy wasn't a beach bum, right? He was there on a mission. He doesn't know what he's there. He's not there to sip coconuts. And he finds out that there is indeed a small Jewish community, maybe a few dozen families there on the island that are Jewish or identify as Jews. And he calls a meeting and he invites everyone to come. He says, I am an emissary of the Rebbe from Chabad, from Brooklyn. He sent me here on a mission to speak to you guys and to inspire you and uplift you to lead better lives. And when they hear that, wow, a rabbi from Brooklyn, and they heard about the Rebbe, sent a man all the way here just to speak to us. They felt special. So a lot of them flocked to hear what this rabbi had to say. And he delivers a very nice speech, peppered with anecdotes and jokes, because what's a rabbi's story without a joke, and what's a rabbi's joke without a story, and it has some timeless lessons in there. It's beautiful, and at the end of the whole talk, he finishes off, and he says l'chaim, and that's it. And he's about to leave when a man from the audience comes out and says, I have something I need to ask you. And this may be the reason why you're sent here, but it's incredible that this is the time that you came. There is a school here in the island that all our students go to. They all attend the school. There's no other school. And up until now, they've been very tolerant of other beliefs. But now they decided that every person, every student has to go to church. They have to visit church for prayers every morning for Mass. And the few dozen that we stood up for our rights, for our beliefs, and we said we don't do that. That's against our beliefs. We should get an exemption, but they weren't willing to listen. and they did not accept it. And my son was unlike any other boy and refused to go to Mass. Even though he was told that he has to go, did not get an exemption, and he refused to go. And he did not go. And when they heard that, they said that there's going to be punitive measures done. Besides for that, there were people that started ridiculing him. He was taunted. He was made fun of in class simply for being Jewish and not being like everyone else, going to Mass. And we don't know what to do. It's extending to our family. Our family is getting rejected. Now the Jews are feeling the heat, and we don't know what to do. What should we do? We need an answer from the Rebbe. So the Chabad emissary said, I can't tell you what to do on the island, but perhaps you can visit another school. There's other places where you can go and where you can move, and you can move there perhaps, and you can. And he said even better. There's a school where I come from in Brooklyn, New York, that has a boarding school. They'll provide accommodations for your son. He can go learn there. And the man, Chaim Yosef, was thrilled at the idea, and he sent his son over to learn at the school. A couple of years later, the family indeed moved out of the island. They moved to Venezuela, where they live in a very nice Jewish community with their son. They went to a proud Jewish school and lived a proud Jewish life. And at the end of the whole saga, he sent a letter into the Rebbe, thanking him for helping out a small Jew from Curacao. And the Rebbe sent back a letter saying, "You're welcome, but I take objection to you calling yourself a small Jew from Curacao. There is no such thing," the Rebbe said, "as a small Jew. Because as it clearly says in Tanya, chapter 2, every single Jew has a spark of God inside of them, a beautiful, precious spark of God. How could you possibly be small when you have the most valuable thing in planet Earth inside of you, God? How could you be small? How could you ever call yourself a small Jew from Curacao?" That, my friends, is the lesson of the Haggada. Why doesn't it say the word Moses? Because each one of us is a Moses. Each one of us has the power to be Moses. Don't excuse yourself and say Moses was great. He could do it, but I can't. No. You can be great. Just like Rabbi Zusha, the great Rabbi Zusha. Rabbi Zusha, who lived around 300 years ago, he would say like this. He would say, "When I go upstairs to heaven, they're not going to ask me, why weren't you great like Abraham? Why weren't you great like Moses? Why weren't you great like King David?" They're going to say, "Hey, dude, why weren't you great like Zusha, like Rabbi Zusha?" God doesn't look at you and say, "I expect the world of you. I expect you to become a Nobel laureate." I don't expect that of you, says God. I want you to be you, the best you. That is the lesson of the Haggada. That is the lesson of Moses. The Moses inside of us, telling us to be great like Moses in our own special way. Let's all be like Moses, my friends. Let's take the world by storm. Let's eradicate this virus. Let's eradicate the spiritual virus and make sure everyone returns to God, returns to Torah, returns to Judaism, bringing Mashiach now. Shabbat Shalom, my friends. L'chaim, wherever you are. It's been great. Virtual hug, because that's what we're giving today. Virtual.